Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Reliable Jewel, also known as Dr. Alexis Davis. My cat says hello. Um, so today I'm here talking about flexing on your fears. So let's get into it. The great Nina Simone said, "I tell you what freedom is to me, no fear." So when we think of a life without no fear, what does that truly mean? I want to take you through a journey of talking about how fear can manifest in melanated individuals. I want to talk about my own personal experience with fear and how I have flexed on my fears because I believe that sharing personal experiences are important. So I'm going to share that and get right on into it. So let's define fear first and foremost. So the mainstream or Western definition of fear by Oxford is an unpleasant emotion caused by threat of danger, pain, or harm. When we think of melanated individuals who manifest in the West, typically nervous systems are automatically elevated simply because of the expression and manifestation of the way the system operates with us, whether it be police brutality, whether it be Black women and birth mortality rates, all of these things, access to mental health services, all of these things truly exacerbate our fear. So when thinking about fear, I wanted to really do a subconscious shift with the definition because I believe that everything starts in our subconscious, right? Our subconscious develops from the time we are in our mother's wombs, basically from conception to 7 years old. So think about all the things that you took in from conception to 7 years old, right? Whether it's trauma, whether it's whatever it is, and remember and being mindful that trauma looks different for everyone. So definitely being mindful of that, right? So in order to do some subconscious shifting, I want to introduce a new definition through acronym of fear. So I know we've heard many acronyms, and so this is something I thought about when I was just thinking of how can I really talk about my experience with fear, and I really thought about facing everything, altering reality, right? Because this fear, right, this unpleasant emotion caused by the threat of. So when we think about the threat of, that's also a mind-based thing. That is us going into our mind catalogs and looking and comparing against things that we've experienced and basing them on things that may be to come. And so when we're talking about facing everything and altering reality, we're talking about being able to face that threat and being able to alter it out of the danger, pain, or harm state, right? All right. So when talking about facing everything, altering reality, I think that we must talk about this big shift because we always talk about our generational trauma without talking about our generational gifts. That is bars. Do you see me? Okay. Anyway, y'all. So shifting from generational trauma to generational gifts also has a large part to do with how we interact with fear and how we can overcome fear. So that altering reality piece, right? When we're stuck in just the generational trauma of things, we are stuck in survival mode, right? When we are stuck in generational money relationships that don't serve us well, when we are stuck in generational habits of abuse, generational habits of codependency, then we're really stuck in this fear-based conundrum. And one thing I've learned in this journey of fear is that there's always something on the other side of it. So I know that I'm talking to Black women who are entrepreneurs, and that in itself, I want to congratulate you on because that is not something that's easy for us. And it's something that oftentimes we can fear. And so I want to commend you on that because you're on the other side of fear already. So let's go on back. So there's always something on the other side of fear. Right. And just like there's something on the other side of fear, there's something on the other side of our generational trauma, which is generational gifts. And so when we do the work to actually heal, to sit in sit in the fears that we have, that we've observed, and allow ourselves to see, why is this presenting itself? What is this here to show me? How can I grow as a spirit being, as a human being, as a woman, as a mother, as a etc., right? How can I grow from this experience? What gifts do I have that this experience is calling me to utilize more of? So these are just questions, right? We have to start asking these questions to get to the other side of our generational trauma as well. So let me just break it down now about my story and my journey with fear, okay? So let's take it back to 2018. Picture it, El Paso. I was at the very last year of my doctoral program. And I was completing my internship. If you know, the dissertation is like the final hazing. Just being real, it's the final hazing of the PhD program. And I remember being late night in my office and just being like, look, Most High, Spirit, ancestors, all y'all will have to come up in here and help me finish this program, because the way I'm feeling, I'm about to be done with it all. And I mean, this is literally how I was talking, because I was at a point where I was just so tired, just tired, of the process, of the experiences, and just a lot of different factors were playing out. Grief, so many things were playing out in my life at that time. And so I just started speaking to spirit and just say, Africa has always been a dream destination for me. And I know that that's something, adjusting my glasses. I know that that is something that would give me motivation to finish this. And so I was like, you know what, Spirit, I'm gonna go to Google. I'm gonna type in, I think I typed like beaches in Africa. Literally just type that in, and whatever pops up, that's where I'm gonna plan my trip to. So I go to the search, I type in beaches in Africa, and Zanzibar pops up. So then I'm like, okay, the next thing to do is, let me type up airports to get to Zanzibar. Then Dar es Salaam pops up. Then I'm like, okay, let me go look up Airbnbs. And then I find this dope Airbnb in this perfect spot that's like not too much in the city center, but on its own island in Dar. So I'm like, yes, okay, turn up. First lesson, facing everything, altering reality. I asked the spirit, I asked the creator, however you define that, I asked for something, but then I went and put the action behind that ask. Okay, so that's a major killer, is putting the action behind the ask. Okay, so I asked, like, hey, give me some motivation. I want to go. Let me see this happen. Let me see it come to fruition. So then literally I planned my whole trip just in that Google search. And then I started telling people, like, hey, I'm going to Africa for graduation. If you want to go, here are the dates. I've already decided these dates will not shift. I already knew when my degree would be conferred. I knew I wanted to go after my degree was conferred. And so I went ahead and just started planning. So fast forward, August 2018, in there like swimwear on the flight with my line sisters. Shout out to y'all. And we touched down on the continent, and there were so many revelations. First was this romanticized view of returning home that we all kind of shared. And I'll just speak from my personal expectations that I had. Really, if I'm just being 100 grand, like, even though I had done some research, even though I had looked into, African spirituality, things of that nature, I still was expecting to come and get the color purple type of response, like, me and you was never part, my key, da, da. Like, I thought somebody, like, and not literally thinking that somebody was going to be at the airport, like, Alexis, and they see me boys, but definitely just was expecting and thinking, without thinking about the other side of oppression and colonization on this side. So that was a huge perspective shift that I had to get over. And then also just being able to finally feel, just period right there. Being able to finally feel while being here showed me how much I was out of alignment with myself in the States, in the Western world. Being able to actually sit down and hear myself think and not have critical thoughts be pushed at me within my mind, right? Those are two different things. And so, yeah, there were a lot of things that I also noticed that were like, there was a lot of things that gave me clarity, going to Zanzibar and going to the holding cells and being able to see and feel the energy of the space and place where ancestors were taken from East Africa, because we hear so much about West Africa, right? But there were a lot of things going on in East Africa as well. So just being able to see all those things gave me this sense of connectedness with this land that I hadn't felt really, I would say, ever. I had been at that point searching for a connection. And so went back, jumped right back into the swing of things, the strong Black woman. Jumped right on back in that phenomenon and went to work at a large, predominantly white institution after studying at nothing but historically Black colleges and universities and underserved population institutions. So when I'm at this PWI, of course, I'm there to serve, my people. And I had to really conquer a lot of fears of unapologetically standing in that. Being able to just say, you know what, this is who I'm here to deal with. This is who I'm here to be a psychologist for. This is who I'm here for. And being okay to just say that. Oftentimes we're so shut out to even speak our desires. And so that taught me like speak my desires again, when I'm asking, putting the action behind that ask, but also speaking out my desires from a heart-centered place and not from a fear-based place, right? So not saying, oh, I really want this, but is it gonna happen? Is it? And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm saying that I am evolving in this to face everything and alter reality. So get back at the PWI, end up transitioning back to being or back to my alma mater and being an assistant professor there. And so many things were gifted to me during that time. One of them being just realizing that institutions may not be the answer to Black liberation, which is something I knew, but I was still holding on to how can I help through the educational system. And at that point, I just realized, I am not meant to operate inside of a system. And that is not to say that, everybody is not meant to do that. That's just not my ministry. And that's okay. So in 2020, again, I started feeling the call again. And I had already felt this call in 2019. The great return was 2020. So I had already felt the call in 2019, and not to go to Ghana, but just to come to the continent, that there was work for me to do here, that there was healing for me to do here, first for myself, and then down the line that I believe in. So I literally stayed in the States because of um, and it really was fear of, can I really make this work? Telling people and then them being like, oh my God, can you make this work? And then internalizing that as my truth. So all of these things kept me stuck in a place that I really did not want to be in. So I wanted to also highlight how when we get stuck in the fear, we also get stuck in unwanted positions and places. And so it's really important when thinking about, what freedom means and this no fear that Nina Simone was talking about, remembering that when we're in fear, we're literally in bondage. And so there's no freedom in fear. There's just bondage, right? So I had to really realize that and sit with that I had chose to place myself and keep myself in bondage. And when I looked at it that way, I fired my boss. And I did this with no plan. No financial plan. I'm just being very transparent. I just fired my boss and was like, you know what? I'm going on a spirit journey. I'm going to follow this. And y'all, I was scared as hell. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, yeah, I did it. I was like, yeah, everything is good. I was nervous. And I was still was trusting that everything was good, and I was still scared. So hence this talk, how to flex on your fears, right? So I already decided, yo, I'm out. I'm gonna go. The first step was firing my boss, right? I asked for spirit to make a way for me to get to Africa. I had to do the action of clearing the way, and part of that clearing was firing my boss. So I did that. I went on a series of trips in the States that I was just called to go on, to get even more clarity. And during that time, of course, like I'm not having any income. So I'm having to figure out, how do I get to these places? Every time spirit made a way. So when we do the ask, right? We follow the ask with action. We ask our desires from a heart-centered place, then we are able to start seeing the alignments of those things. Because oftentimes we think we have to see everything, or I thought I had to see everything. And being uncomfortable in the unknown is a growth point for me. So I went on all of these spiritual trips. And I think by the last one, I knew, like, you know what? There is no place in this space that I want to be in. And that means that it's time for me to make a big step for my life. And I decided I'm going to move to Africa. And I decided that with no financial clarity on how that will work. And I'm emphasizing on finances because that is something that I'm flexing on my fears with as well. So I was like, okay, what is it? What can I do? So I started looking at, I had already been in the Black Cities groups and, Black repads and just looking at all those groups. So I started looking at, like, how did people fund themselves to get there? And I still had some consultant opportunities. So I was pretty confident in, knowing that I would have some streams coming in. So I saw, that some people had to use GoFundMe. I never personally used GoFundMe, so I was like, hey, let me tap into this, because I also am evolving in this fear for asking for help. And I'm sure you can probably resonate with me on that at some level. And so for me, that was flexing on the fear of, ooh, if I ask for help, that means that I'm weak, or that I couldn't deal with something, or that I'm unable to deal with something, or I can't conquer this, right? So in order for me to deal with that, I made the ask, like, spirit, I'm going to ask my community to support me in this. Please allow them to support me. I took action. I created the GoFundMe. And not only did I create the GoFundMe, I sent myself an email as if it was coming from GoFundMe. And I said in the subject, congratulations, you have reached your goal of, I think I was trying to raise 5,000. You've reached your goals of $5,000. And then I sent like an email in the body, like, I hope it feels awesome that you've reached your goal. Share with us your story, something like that, so that I could actually see that and trick my subconscious out of thinking, this is not possible for me. This is not obtainable for me, because these are thoughts that I literally had that I had to shift. So that's the first thing, the action that I put behind, like, making it a reality and affirming the things that I wanted to see. I wanted to be in Africa, so I affirmed that that was going to happen. And there was nothing that was going to stop me from making that happen. And so the next step was flights. So I got to get there, right? So I knew that was going to be the first thing I needed to confirm. And there's this beautiful thing, plug, called airfordable.com. And they offer flights on layaway. So I was like, okay, cool. I can do this. I can make the deposit, and I know that I'm going to get this money back. I'm going to get this money to pay for the rest of my flight. So I made the deposit, and boom, right after I made the deposit, donations start coming in. So I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and pay for my flight, secure my flight. And even when I did the air affordable, I sent an email to myself saying, congratulations, your air affordable ticket is attached. Enjoy your trip to Africa. Like, I created in my subconscious that this is something that has already existed. It's already happened. And that helped me a lot. Whenever I would get discouraged, I would go look at those emails, or I would look at previous donations I received, or just people's comments about, the process that I was going through. And then I had to deal with attachments, attachments to things, people, places, right? Because now I'm packing my life up. And at this point, I hadn't even told a lot of people. I hadn't told a large amount of people. Actually, I hadn't told anybody at that point. So I hadn't told anybody before posting the GoFundMe. Let me say that. So I reached out just to some sister healer group that I cherish. Shout out to y'all, Little Rock. Y'all know who y'all are. And I just was like, yo, I gotta tell y'all something. I'm not really telling anybody else right now. I remember we were walking, planning an event for Nakabuka Day, and I told them about going to Africa. And they were very supportive. So I ended up selling all my things. I set my house up as a boutique and allowed people to come through. I did auctions on Facebook. And I just was like, you know what? I'm a Marie Kondo my way out of this. I'm not going to be attached to these things because something is so greater on the other side of this attachment. Even to the point where I had to leave my dog in the States. So that taught me that fear is not attached. When we're in fear, we're attached to so many things, and mainly we're attached to the control. So to really evolve out of fear, it calls for some detachments. So fast forward to now, just to tell you, round it out. I am currently and have been living on the continent in East Africa for a year and a half now. I am still and will continue to flex on my fears. I'm continuing to grow and being able to be a part of a solution for Black liberation and African liberation globally. And I began to challenge myself to heal. So since being here, I've lost 47 pounds. I'm really excited about that. I literally shed weight metaphysically and physically. I've hosted 4 retreats, one being a collective retreat for women, healing the divine feminine. And I plan to host more. I've hosted and developed curriculum for a 10-week women healing group called WISE, Women Intuitively and Sacredly Evolving. And I've launched and ran 2 courses of the subconscious mind and social media. So I am totally immersing myself into entrepreneurship now, being a psychologist who was trained to be in a system. So I just want to encourage you all, when it comes to fear, keep flexing on those things. Remember that fear is the lowest vibration according to the frequency scale, and love is the optimal place to live. So if you ever find yourself in fear, love on yourself with a hug. Remember the ask, to put action behind the ask, to ask from what you desire from a heart-centered place, to ask for what you desire from a heart-centered place. I just want to emphasize on that because it's okay to ask for what you want, Black woman. And just remember, the frequency of fear is slow and wide, and the love vibration is narrow and rapid. The frequency of fear is at about 100 hertz, while the frequency of love is at 500 hertz. So I really just want to emphasize that, fear is something that we all can evolve on, and there's something on the other side of fear. So I look forward to, hearing back and celebrating all of you all as you flex on your fears, whether it be through business, whether it be through personal life transitions, or just your healing journey. Keep flexing on your fears, and remember, we are the change that we hope to see, and African liberation will happen in our lifetime. Thank you. This has been Dr. Reliable Jewel, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. Peace.
My good sis said African liberation will happen in our lifetime. Yeah, that's energy right there, Dr. Alexis. Okay, I see y'all's hearts clapping, clapping, clapping. Alexis, can you hear me? Oh, it might be a lag. Can you hear me, Mama? She's in Tanzania still, y'all.
Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Okay, so the comments going crazy. The questions are filling up, but I think we may only have time for two. So I'm gonna pop the first one up, Mama. You look beautiful, by the way. You look beautiful. Okay. You look good. Okay, this first question comes from Tierra, and she asks, when fear flexing, how are we silencing those loud, super loud voices in the back of our head, trying to push those fears forward while also trying to flex on them?
Yes. Okay. And I said that was a double question, Tierra. Thank you so much, sis. So the suggestion that I put in was like a journal activity. I'm really big on journaling. So what I had to do was list out all my major fears. Like, okay, I'm gonna get over Africa and I ain't gonna have enough to support myself. I'm gonna be homeless. And then I had to put on the side of that, I have everything I need. I am an abundant being. So I had to put the highest truth, right? An elder shared this with me, and it's just rang in my heart forever. There's truths and there's higher truths. So we have this law of higher truths. And so whenever you have a truth presented to you as a fear, you just flex that into the highest truth. What is the highest truth of that fear, right? So if it's I can never go to Africa, no, the highest truth of that is I'm an abundant being who could travel wherever I please, right? And so then you find those action steps to making that happen. So that's what I would suggest is writing out all your fears, because you have to be honest about what you're feeling and you have to know that. And then making another column and writing out what is the highest truth or the higher truth, right? Because you may evolve those truths even higher as you go along your journey. So what's the higher truth? That's what I would suggest. And then jump off the porch. Hold on, jump off the porch. You got a porch, right? The porch, like, okay, looking at everybody running by, playing hopscotch and shit. Like, okay, this the higher truth. I can play hopscotch. I can double dutch and shit. You got to be willing to actually get off the damn porch and do it. So, like, for example, I'm going to just do an example. I have another retreat coming up that I've been planning with another group of healers, and it's in December, and it's for families, teaching families how to come to the continent, how to live sovereign lives, and prepare their children for that. So, what I'm about to do is flex on my fear, and I'm going to drop it in the chat. So, you just got to really jump off the porch. So I'm going to drop the retreat link in the chat, and then we can go to the next question. So for me, I was like, I gotta flex on some fears too. So, do it by example.
That's really good. And I love y'all. And I know y'all love Dr. Alexis, but we got to go to the other talk. So remember this, right? She said, journal down what your fears are, every single one of them, and then ask yourself, what is the highest truth? I love that. What is the highest truth? And then write that down next to it. I love that. I love everything you said about tricking your subconscious. I think you've given a whole lot of methodical steps for us to follow. So y'all put pen to paper, put action behind your intention, right? Yeah, Erica feels it. What is the highest truth? And y'all be great, right? We have a lineup full of doctors today, believe it or not. A lineup full of doctors today. I'm so excited about it. Dr. Alexis Davis, the world will know your name. I appreciate you so much, sis. Thank you for rocking with us.
Thank you so much. And definitely tap in with me on Instagram, or even hit me on DM on here too if you have any questions that weren't answered. I love you all. We are what we've been waiting for, in liberation. African liberation is going to be seen in our lifetime. Keep saying that too, okay?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, y'all. We are hopping over to the next session, which is Stop That Shh by Dr. Cheryl Carr. I'll see y'all on the other side. Peace.